Hello, everybody. Can you hear us? Tribers, please let me know if we are audible, if you can see us well. And welcome to yet another interesting session just on Parent Tribe by SuperBottoms. So let me just begin the session right away without any further ado. I can see that people are joining in. So Tribers, this session is very interesting, and the main topic for today's session is navigating toddler tantrums. I'm sure all of us have had a hard time with our toddler at some point or the other in understanding what to do, what not to do, and how to handle and navigate a tantrum thrown by our toddler. So this session is going to address this from all aspects. And for that, we have with us an expert, Riri Trivedi. Riri Trivedi is a regression therapist, trainer, and the co-founder of Wellness Space. She is a mother of 3. She is a certified trauma-sensitive heart math practitioner, an inner child integration therapist, a clinical hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist, a yoga therapist, certified mentor and coach from Heart Math Institute, certified Gestalt and advanced Gestalt practitioner. She has trained more than 300 regression therapists across the world through her online and offline training. She uses her vast therapy experience to heal and help her clients achieve transformation and balance in their practice. She is a social media influencer with more than 640,000 followers across Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms. She is a professional member of IMDHA, Spiritual Regression Therapy Association, and a professional member of Earth and Heart Math Institute USA. She has co-authored a book on breast cancer, medical treatment, side effects, and complementary therapies. She can be reached on riri@wellnessspace.net. Welcome to the session, ma'am. Do you have any?
Thank you so much for having me over. Thank you so much.
So, ma'am, do you have any opening thoughts for the session?
Well, I'm a mother of 2 kids, and I can say that being a mother of toddlers is difficult. It's hard. And I had my second one when I moved to Japan. So when he was 1 month old. So when you are living out of your country also sometimes, or you're living in a new place, right? It's even more difficult. And back then when my kids were toddlers, I did not have the tools or the resources that I wish I had to, be a better mom to them. But today, thanks to social media, thanks to so much of information that is available, now parents can really do something, about, their toddler. There's so much of information available for themselves to manage themselves and their toddlers, which makes the parenting journey much more interesting, much more joyful, and that's how it's meant to be.
So often we see that more than toddlers, parents have a meltdown managing the toddlers when they throw a tantrum, especially when they are in a public place. And, there is a lot of fear and anxiety amongst parents that, what if I take my toddler to a particular place and they end up throwing a tantrum? How do I manage it? The fear of judgment that follows. So could you please share how parents can navigate this anxiety, which is around the toddler tantrums?
See, one thing that parents need to understand is toddlers are toddlers. So if you think that your toddler is going to be judged for being a toddler, then it's a wrong thinking, because it's like almost if you have a cat can't behave like a dog. It's going to be a cat. So if you have a toddler, you expect the toddler to behave like a teen or an adult. First of all, that expectation is wrong at all levels. Toddlers will be toddlers, and when there are toddlers, they will throw tantrums. Now, if you as a parent are going to have anxiety because of it, because you are afraid of being judged by the people, judged for not being a good mom, not training your children, not giving them attention. And of course, there'll be people who will comment, oh my God, how ill-mannered, how ill-disciplined, the mother has not done a good job, isko kuch sikhaya nahi hai. Then if that is triggering you and causing you anxiety and making you angry, then you need to work on yourself, is what I would tell the moms. It is not your toddler's fault for being who he or she is. Having said that, if your toddlers from a very young age are showing signs of extreme anger, hyperactivity, extreme sensitivity, extreme reaction, then also it is an area of concern, because most likely they would have picked it up either from the environment or from the mother or the father, most likely, or even including from the womb itself. So one must understand that, first of all, it's not your toddler's fault for whatever he or she is going through. Secondly, if it is triggering you, then please, please, please recognize it and work on yourself. Everybody who is judging you has also been a toddler, has also most likely been a parent to toddlers, right? So, yeah, so even if you can't, even if working on yourself and changing your toddler is taking time, in that in-between period also, getting anxious and fearful about it is really not worth it. Because then your reaction and your extreme reaction is going to cause further damage to the toddler, and it's not going to actually fix the problem. It's just going to accentuate the problem much further.
Right. Also, one of the questions parents often Google is, why am I so angry with my toddler? So how can they get answers to this question?
Now, anger, there are multiple reasons. One is, a lot of times women go through postpartum depression, which is because of a lot of hormonal changes that happen during pregnancy. And postpartum depression can make a person very, very angry, sometimes even suicidal, violent, etc. And this happens more so when there is already an existing trauma history amongst the mothers. So if the mothers themselves have been through a lot of trauma, they have a lot of unresolved past trauma that they've not worked on, now they get pregnant, and then because of other hormonal issues as postpartum depression, then it is literally like a bag full of firecrackers that are ready to be set on fire. Then there is severe anxiety, severe depression, anger, or complete, violent behaviors, all of that. Again, it is important to recognize this and to take help for it. Why am I getting angry? That question can be answered by this, that either it could be postpartum, it could be hormonal postpartum depression. It could also be because you have unsupported partner or family members who are not supporting you, and you've taken up the entire stress of the motherhood and bringing up the child on your own shoulders, and you are feeling unsupported. Third is, of course, if you have unresolved trauma baggage, you are bound to be extremely trigger friendly, very, very sensitive, and very much prone to having these, outbursts. All of these have to be recognized and worked upon, because the impact, the damage to your toddler can be huge, which you may not see it in the early years, but it will show up when the toddler becomes a teenager and an adult.
Right. Okay. So for somebody who has identified that they get triggered, but they are still in this phase of trying to resolve whatever they are going through, how can, once they get angry, what should they do so that they don't express that anger and they don't inflict that on their child?
Yeah. So see, anger, I always give this analogy of a bottle, like, what is anger? Now let me explain, if I have some time with this, that suppose if I have this bottle and every day I'm putting 5 grams of gunpowder into this bottle, okay, every day. And it looks like a very pretty pink bottle. I'm putting it on my table, but every day I have accumulated gunpowder in it. And when you suppose, Shweta, when you come to meet me, the bottle is full of gunpowder. You don't know, okay? But you know that the bottle is on my table. And every time you see me, you see this beautiful pink bottle, but you feel, oh, wow, there's nothing wrong. It's good. It's a safe place, right? Now, one day when you and I are talking and a spark comes from somewhere and goes inside the bottle. Now, what is going to happen? There's going to be a blast, right? And now Shweta is going to say, yeah, but you know what? Because that spark came, the blast happened. So Riri, let's do one thing. Let's make sure there are no sparks in the room. Yeah, because we have to stop all these sparks from coming. So next time when Shweta comes, I'm going to close all the doors and windows and seal the room tight. But still, there's going to be an anxiety that what if something escapes and a spark comes inside the bottle, there will be a blast. Now, another thing what we might, okay, we'll close the bottle. The blast is going to happen inside, which is going to damage the bottle. But Shweta and I will be safe. But none of these are long-term solutions. The only way I can prevent the blast is by recognizing that what is inside the bottle. Inside the bottle, if it is gunpowder, there is going to be a blast irrespective of from where the spark comes, up, down, left, right. But if I empty the gunpowder and replace it with chakki fresh atta or gai chap besan, now am I going to be worried about this bottle? I can leave it open and sit on my desk and talk with you, Shweta. The windows will be open. Is there going to be a blast?
No.
What is going to happen? Even if the spark comes inside the bottle, it will be diffused. Now this bottle is your body. All that 5 grams, 10 grams, 100 grams of gunpowder are all your past experiences that you have accumulated and pushed inside and not done anything about it. What are the sparks? Husband said something, mother-in-law said something, toddler did something, neighboring auntie said something, Mossy said something, and the blast happened because there is gunpowder. Emptying the gunpowder literally means that processing and releasing and resolving all the things that cause the blast inside your system, which are your triggering files. Once that is emptied out, those people will remain the same. They are not going to change, but their behavior will not trigger you. It is like replacing gunpowder with chakki fresh atta in very simple words.
Right.
You get it? So
Yes.
this is all about anger. So one thing I would say that if you are being angry at your toddler and you're hitting and beating and releasing anger, then of course it is important you stop it. But by stopping it and suppressing it and pushing it down, now you are just letting the blast happen inside the bottle. Who is going to get damaged? The bottle. So if you are even controlling and pushing down your anger, then the mothers are still harming their bodies, because after a few years, they will land up with some sort of a chronic or psychosomatic issue because of all the bottled up emotions, or they may just come out like a volcano one day, breaking all the bottles and lids and everything. Versus, I would recommend to all the moms that please do some techniques that work on your breath, on your mind, on your emotions and your body that can help you self-regulate, which means over time, you learn to release your emotions in the healthy, safe way and to process them and to train your body to be regulated, which means in a balanced state. So whatever be the triggers, you don't blast. I know it was a very long answer, but I think if people understand the logic with that analogy, they should get it.
No, I mean, it was extremely insightful. That analogy really helped us understand to look at it from a third person perspective and then identify whatever's happening with us and then take action on that. So thank you so much for, sharing that long answer, but such an insightful one. So really, sometimes parents do think that, the child is still very young, still very small. So whatever happens now, it's okay. Later on, once the child starts understanding, then we will sort of mend our ways. So can you please shed some light on when the toddler is really young, maybe 1 or 2 years old, and the parents are behaving in a certain way, the family environment is in a certain way. How much of it do toddlers understand, absorb, and imbibe in themselves?
So today there is research that shows that implicit memory is the memory of feelings, sensations, emotions, sounds, experiences. Implicit memory starts forming in the womb itself. Okay, not the explicit. Explicit is all the who, what, when, where, how, episodic memory. But the somatic memory, the body memory of all the emotions and experiences starts forming in the womb, which means right from 4 months into the womb, the fetus is actually implicitly absorbing a lot of things from the environment. So even after birth, if the mothers and fathers think that, oh, because my toddler is just tied up, wrapped up and sleeping all day, or, not speaking, not communicating means is not understanding anything, that is completely wrong. The maximum brain development and neural pathway formations happen in the early years. And even when the child is not communicating, the child is still subconsciously picking up every single nuance of the parent's voice, tone, body language, behavior, and the environment. So if the mother is anxious and stressed and she is breastfeeding the child, instantly, even being in the mother's lap or mother's hands, the child will know whether my mother is upset, anxious, tensed, or relaxed and happy by just picking up the muscles, the facial expressions, the touch. All of this children are hypersensitive to, and more so because their survival depends upon these two people. The primary is the mother. And because the survival depends upon the mother, the brain is designed in such a way that the child is so tuned to the mother. Imagine if there was this one person on whom your life and death depended upon, how much will you be connected to that person, right? The person's moods, actions, behaviors. So if the mother is unpredictable, if the mother is angry, anxious, if the parents are having a lot of violent interactions, even verbal fights, the child recognizes it, gets affected by it. And all of those auditory files, visual files are going inside the child's mind and body, though the child is not able to understand it fully or express it. But the same child, when he or she becomes an adult and comes to our clinical practice as a 30 or a 40-year-old for therapy, we have worked with hundreds of clients who go back in time and vividly recollect being 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and listening to conversations of their parents, understanding that mother was anxious, mother was scared, dad and mom are having a fight, I'm not wanted, all of that. So I would really tell the parents that please be careful about how is your mental and emotional state when you are around infants and toddlers as well. Do not take it for granted that they don't understand, they don't sense, they don't get it. They are very, very sensitive. And most of the subconscious programming happens in this early age. So please work on yourselves. If you are having marital problems, please resolve those. If you are having personal issues, mental health issues, please work on it, because do not take it lightly that, oh, just because I have a toddler, or, it's okay right now. The kid grows up. By the time the kid is 10 and 11, you start seeing the signs of everything that has gone inside in the
Right.
early years.
Right.
Then the fixing will start. So instead of fixing, it is better to prevent.
So, ma'am, you just mentioned that some people vividly remember the memories from 1 or 2 years of age. So the next question,
even
yeah.
womb memory.
Oh, they have womb memories also.
Yes.
So if the mother is stressed during pregnancy, that also reflects on the child.
See, now again, you cannot take these things literally. So that means I'm not saying that, every mother who is stressed has a child who is messed up. No. But what I'm saying is that, so a lot of factors play a role: emotional resilience of the child, the genetic structure, the childhood, the birth order, all of that plays a role. But yes, definitely today there is research to back up the fact that even in the womb, when the child is in the womb, and if the mother has chronic stress, for example, not 1 or 2, 3 or episodes of stress, but continuous stress on a regular basis, then the child is affected. How? Because if the mother is going through stress, her body is in a fight and flight mode. And that means the mother's blood is full of cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress hormones. Now, this mother's blood goes to the child through the placenta, and the child who is now in this whole cortisol-loaded blood, which goes into the child's brain, it starts affecting the brain development in a negative way. So please understand there is science behind this. I'm not just faffing, or I'm not just giving some spiritual gyan. Of course, we do have Garbh Sanskar in Indian, I would say, systems. Garbh Sanskar is a very important part of, motherhood, right? But now science is backing it because of this, that if mother goes through chronic stresses, mother has gone through physical abuse and violence in pregnancy, the child who is inside is bound to be affected. Child's nervous system is affected, brain development is affected, the child's the emotional development is also affected. If the mother has gone through severe stress, trauma, and abuse in pregnancy, high likelihood, I'm not saying everybody, but high likelihood, children will have, by birth, they will have difficulties in sleeping, they will be colicky, there will be early deliveries and low birth weight, and all these conditions, or early signs of ADHD, sleep disorders from childhood, all of this is linked to maternal stress. Yes.
Right. So yeah, I mean, you answered the question. I was leading towards it, that does the toddler remember the parent yelling at them?
Of course. Now the thing is that not everybody recollects the explicit memory, which is, who, what, when, where, how. But implicit memory is stored in the body as a emotion, as a feeling. So the emotions and feelings of these episodes, whatever the child has experienced as a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 5-year-old, is recorded by the body. The mind may remember it vividly, the mind may forget it, may not remember how old was I, what was I wearing, what was mom wearing, what time of the day it happened. Those memories may not be that clear. But whatever the toddler or the child felt inside the body, anger, helplessness, shame, fear, extreme fear, all of this is recorded by the body. And in the future, when similar things happen in the environment, even when the child becomes 25 or 30-year-old, the child gets triggered because those files are present.
Okay. And are there any specific traits that are displayed by children with angry mothers, especially, or angry parents? So, do angry mothers affect the children in the long run? And what
Of
are those
course.
typical traits these children develop in themselves?
See, angry mothers means that the child will either grow up to normalize anger and violence, which means the child will say, oh, this is fine. So every time I want somebody to listen to me, I have to scream, shout, get angry, and be violent. People will listen to me. Or the other polarity is the child might develop complete helplessness and shame and self-doubt. Yeah, which means that the child will not be violent and aggressive and angry, but the child will be completely helpless, shut down, numbed out, or rebellious probably, or just can't do it, low self-esteem, low confidence. So anger and violence can cause polarity between two children. So if you have two toddlers, does not mean both will show the same outcome. One will probably normalize anger and become just like the angry parent, and the other one will become completely opposite of that, which is helpless, shut down, numbed out, or completely lack of confidence. So this is the two polarities, how it affects. Yes, many parents come to me saying, oh, my child is being very angry, he's a teenager and he has violent temper tantrums. And my first question is, which adult who had this kind of behavior when the child was growing up? 95% of the children at birth they don't get born with anger. Most of the time, how they express anger is a learned behavior from the parents and environment. It could be mother, father, dada, dadi, nana, nani, even the caretaker, even the babysitter, whoever the child is spending most time with. So children learn. Sometimes I have parents who are aware and they tell me, oh my God, now when I see my child who is 14, he's giving me back the same expressions, the same behaviors and dialogues that I gave him when he was 2 and 3 and 5 and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or like I said, the other thing is, also one thing I must say to moms that, see, it's not to feel guilty about being angry, but you must understand that when we are angry, then our children develop fear of us and of our anger. And when they develop fear, automatically they will have fear-based behaviors, which is either withdrawing from you, not feeling connected to you, or starting to hide things from you, feeling so shameful and guilty. Like, for example, potty training or small things like, you're teaching alphabets to your child. But if you're showing anger, the child is going to, hide things from you, not want to work with you, start telling lies, start doing things behind your back out of fear.
Yeah.
So I would always say that, please work on the anger. And there's no point feeling guilty about it because guilty doesn't help anybody. But anger has to be worked upon. Really, it is extremely dangerous and very, very toxic for everybody involved, not just the child, the spouse also, and everybody else.
Right. So we discussed everything from the parents' perspective till now. But as a mother, if I'm taking my child outside or maybe within the environment of the house also, but the child is throwing a tantrum. So what should be the best way for me to deal with that tantrum during that particular moment?
First of all, remember that a child throws tantrum for a couple of reasons. One is a child is not getting attention, and the only time you are giving attention to the child is when there is a tantrum. This typically happens when the mothers are too busy, that there are already older siblings who are taking the mom's attention, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. The other reason for throwing a tantrum is that simply that the child is testing your boundaries. Like the child is trying one more way to get things done and seeing, chalo, let's see ke kaam karta hai ki nahi, right? In either case, giving in to the tantrum is not a good idea, whatever be the excuse. But at the same time, suppressing the tantrum or facing the tantrum with anger, threatening, violence is also not good. So when a child is throwing tantrums, first thing the parents have to do is just take deep breaths and back off. Just back off. Because when the child is throwing a tantrum, the child is operating from the lower brain, which is a reactive brain. Now, when the parent is triggered by the child's tantrum, parent is also operating from the reactive brain. So there are two people who are operating from a reactive brain. It is not going to bring any solution. So parents must first recognize that when there is a tantrum on the other side, be it a toddler, be it a young adult, be it a teenager also, when there is a tantrum means a child is not operating from the upper brain. It is a completely emotional, impulse-driven behavior. Could be anger, could be whatever, rebelliousness, right? Parent has to step back and not react. This is only possible if the parents are self-regulated. Once the tantrum is down, once the tantrum is, receded, the child knows that my parents are not going to give in to the tantrum. That is when the child has become normal, is ready to operate from the upper brain, one must sit with the child and understand what is it that the child actually wanted. Right? So first of all, when the child is dysregulated, having any sort of conversation, asking questions, pacifying is not going to help. Sometimes with toddlers, when they are angry and throwing a tantrum, physical touch may help. So just holding them nicely, rubbing their back, just rubbing their shoulders or giving them a hug would just calm them down. Because remember, toddlers don't know self-regulation techniques. And if their parents are also not self-regulated, they don't learn it at all. But right. When parents are self-regulated, they are mirroring a regulated behavior to the toddler. Secondly, they can use physical touch and calming to calm down the toddler. If the toddler is still throwing and getting angry, then back off. Don't react. And then later on, once it's like a wave, it'll come. But if you don't react, it'll go away. Most problems happen is because when the toddler throws at the parents react, then there's a double reaction, then there's a counter reaction, and then it blows out of proportion. हम कहते हैं ताली दो हाथ से बजती है. तो ये सिचुएशन में पेरेंट्स को शांत रहना है. चाहे कोई कुछ भी कहे, चाहे आपकी सास बोले कि कुछ करो, just say, let it be. Because a child has to learn that throwing tantrums is not the way to get things done. Secondly, the child will learn that if I'm throwing a tantrum, the other person can still be calm. And so I can also be calm. Thirdly, once the tantrum is over and the parents talk to the toddler and understand what is happening, they are helping the toddler activate the upper brain, which is the more rational, thinking, impulse control center of our brain. So by having a conversation afterwards, you are helping the toddler to work on that.
Right. Okay. Wow, super insightful. I mean, I have a 2-year-old at home, so I went through something like this just a few hours ago. So yeah, this is extremely insightful to me also. I'm sure all that we are having lots of questions. So I'm sure all the tribers are also getting a lot of insight from this. So, what are some of the activities or exercises that the parents and child, maybe just the mother or maybe both parents together and the child can do to help reduce this tantrum behavior?
First is, I must tell all the parents that, don't go to any extreme parenting style. One extreme is too much control, too much discipline, too much rigidity, too much of structure. The other extreme is no structure, no control, no discipline, and full-on entitlement. Both of these extremities are toxic. Okay, so as parents, please first of all understand that having a balanced parenting style is important. Now for that, what you can do with your children is build on the connection versus correction. What happens is most of the times when we are with our small children, we are constantly correcting them. Like even if he's building Lego, you want them to build it correctly. If the child is drawing, you want to make them draw correctly, right? So there's a lot of correction that happens. Don't sit like this, don't write like this, can you do this? Instead, build connection. Because when you have a connection with your child early on, in the teenage years, when the child suddenly gets these hormonal changes and becomes volatile, this connection will help in those difficult years to address your child's problems, to not isolate the child, and to help the child maneuver through their difficult teenage years, if the connection is established early on. If you miss the connection in the toddlers and preteen and infant years, then when the child becomes a teenager, it's going to be extremely difficult to help the child and to connect with the child or to do anything. And then parents just helplessly watch all the disasters happening one by one. So all that you do with your child should be focused on building connection. And by building connection, I mean having lots of activities, games that you can do together. Do a lot of unstructured playtime. Today, parents are so structured in everything. Matlab, right from designing their play dates and, okay, today you play with Lego, tomorrow then because you played with Lego, tomorrow you have to play something else, and third day. So everybody is so addicted to structure, but children's brains need the maximum unstructured time when they are growing up. So free play, let them do what they want, climb trees, get dirty hands, play in the mud, play on the bed sheets, play on the sofas. Lot of unstructured time with them can really develop their brains in very amazing ways. It helps creativity, it helps them reduce stress. Same activity, if you do in a structured way, then the creativity is lost. In fact, the child gets more stressed. But unstructured is so important, and which used to happen in the early generations. But this generation today, everything is structured, right? And hence it comes with a whole set of issues. So focus on unstructured play, focus on games and activities that can help you bond with your child. Be like them when you play with them. Connect with your own 2-year-old, 3-year-old inside of you who's waiting to play with the child. And during the bonding time or play time, avoid correcting the child, avoid giving gyan, avoid giving advices and all of that stuff.
Okay. So many times parents, if we have just one child, then often we have to deal with just that one tantrum. But often after having the second child, the first child feels a little neglected, or they start having a different kind of a behavior. So how can parents manage toddlers after having a second child?
Yeah, so see, what happens is that the first child it is very natural. We are all territorial inherently. So the first child is going to feel threatened and insecure once the second one comes along. So it is important to prepare the first child in a positive way for the arrival of the second one and convince and assure the first child that his or her individual time is not going to be eaten up by the second one. The reality is it gets eaten up, but as parents, this is where the support of the spouse and extended family is extremely important, because the older one will still need that one-to-one time if you don't want sibling rivalry. Otherwise, there is so much of sibling rivalry that happens, and then sometimes this goes way into adulthood. Yeah, where they grow up hating each other. And it could be something over very silly things in childhood, but the programs get solidified. So as parents, I think what you need to do is, first of all, prepare the older one for the arrival of the younger one, even after the younger one is born. And in all natural instinct, the younger one will need lots and lots more attention, but the parenting will have to be shared. So that is a time when the husband or the spouse or the partner has to be involved in sharing the parental responsibilities. After the second one is born, it is even more important to give one-to-one exclusive alone time with the first child, which means the first child should be told, and the first child should know that, okay, this is my time with my mother one-to-one, without that little one hanging around, feeding, jumping around or being in the room. So small things can be done to avoid the sibling rivalry. And yes, it is difficult for the parents, but it can be managed if you have good support of your in-laws or parents or spouse.
Okay.
In fact, the toddlers, see, the younger ones also need the mother, because physical bonding is very important in the early years. But that doesn't mean the older one doesn't need it. So time has to be managed where older one also gets one-to-one exclusive time.
Right.
And the older one needs to feel secure. I mean, it's good to keep the communication that, okay, how do you feel about this? What do you want me to do? What can we do together so that you feel, that you are important, you are loved? So involve the older child have a communication. Children today are quite articulate and they can tell you what they really want and what are their expectations.
Correct, correct. So we are having a few viewers' questions also. We'll quickly take top few questions out of that.
Yes, sure.
So someone's saying my child throws a tantrum very often, and despite talking to him politely and trying to get through it, they still continue to cry. So is it okay to back off and let the child cry it out in such a situation?
Yes, if it is becoming a habit on a routine basis, then for a change, let the child cry out for some time. Don't ignore, like don't pretend nobody cares he's crying, but just be there calmly. Yeah, just be there calmly and probably, like I said, touch the child, hold the child's hand if he's allowing you to, give a hug, or just quietly sit with the child and rub their back. Because for small kids, physical touch can really, really help just bring them, in a few minutes, they can calm down. Yeah, but don't speak. We spoil things sometimes when we speak. They get more triggered. Yeah. So if he's not listening to whatever you're arguing and reasoning, if he's not don't do any of that. Then just sit with the child and just rub their back, rub their hands, hold the hand, give a hug, pat their back, sir pe haath fero. अगर बच्चा उसको receptive feel करता है, do that, and then the child will calm down. But don't give in to the tantrum. Because you give in to the tantrum once, next time the child will throw more effort in putting a tantrum and it will just extend and extend. Because every time the child hopes that parents will give in.
Right. So the next question is, sometimes a child sees another child throwing a tantrum and gets triggered and starts following that. How to deal with that?
Let it be. Just let them do. Just laugh about it. Just do your own thing. See, you don't have to always micromanage your children's behaviors and things. Today what is happening is it's an information overload age, and all parents are highly qualified parents in terms of everybody wants to be the best parent. So what they're doing is everybody is trying to fix everything for the children. Like sometimes now we have to coach the parents in the other way. Like we have to tell them, please back off, just have a life of your own. Just let these kids be. It's okay if they fight once in a while. It's okay if they scream and shout, and then they'll learn to make up also after that. Like you can't fix everything. Children have to also grow through these stages of crying, fighting, having these social groups where there are all these things happening. They have to learn to maneuver that. Today's parents want to fix everything, including the play dates. Who should you play with? What should you play? How long should you play? What should you do in the play and you do in the play? All these parents are involved. So children don't learn anything. So I think today's parents need to back off and follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of the things, just let it be. 20%, which is really critical, just work on that.
Great. Yes. So with that, we're at the end of all our questions for the day. I mean, such a super insightful conversation this has been. Do you have any ending thoughts for this session?
Ending thought would only be for all the mothers that please relax. Don't take your motherhood like a project. It is not a project. Most mothers today are high flying, they are all these mothers who want to, either they have a good career and they want to make the child also a good product, or they are the mothers who've given up everything to be good mothers. So somewhere this childhood, this parenting becomes such a huge to-do list and a project for most mothers, right? And I would say that please stay in balance. Don't overdo it. Have a life of your own also. You are not just a mother, you're also a wife, you're a daughter, you're a friend, you're a sister, you are an employer or a businesswoman. Focus on all roles of your life. Don't let motherhood completely take you over to the extent that, it affects your self-worth, it affects your emotional state, it affects your relationships with your husband, with your in-laws. Don't, because I have seen a lot of mothers have started having problems with their in-laws because of children, because of parenting styles that are different, because, इसमें भी इतने family issues होने लग गए. तो मैं यही कहूंगी कि please back off a little bit, take it easy, don't take this so seriously. Okay, being a mother is a part of natural growing up. Yes, you do educate yourselves on what you should not do and what you should do and what are the outcomes of whatever you do. All that is fine, but don't let it overtake your instinct, your gut feel, and your love for your child. You cannot be a good parent by reading books, attending workshops on a parent. All that is good, but it is only a support. Ultimately, good parenting is only about connecting your child at the level of the child, being in the child's shoes, trying to be like your toddler and see the world from your toddler's eyes. See what you're trying to tell, hear what you're telling your child, hear it from the child's ears. Listen to it from the child's point of view. See what you're telling the child from the child's point of view. Then you will be able to build that connection, be a better mom, be empathetic. And do not forget to read Khalil Gibran's poem on children. It is something that I have taken a printout and given to so many of my clients. The poem is called The Children by Khalil Gibran. Please have a look at it. Take a printout, frame it, put it up on your wall, because it is going to be relevant for you as long as you are a parent, for a lifetime, not just toddlers. That's all I would like to say.
Wow. Thank you so much for this exceptional information that you've shared with us today. I'm sure not just me, but every viewer who has joined us in this live session today, we are already getting excellent feedback on the session. So I'm sure each person who
do we have one or two more questions? I can take more questions. I'm not going to be so rigid on time. So if there are still one or two more questions that parents need to ask, please. I can't see the questions on my screen, so
yeah,
I would be more than happy to answer. See, I'll tell you something. I'm doing my doctorate on the topic of adverse childhood experiences and impact on mental health. So I really know it is my mission and purpose in life to educate parents on, positive parenting, to prevent this whole burden of childhood trauma and abuse on a whole generation of Indians. So this is not just about my work and my money and business. It is about my passion and my vision. So please, if there are questions, I would be more than happy to answer them if it's helping people.
Yeah, you have actually answered most of them in a different segment already. They are kind of on the same lines. But I mean, if you have any new pointers to share with us, please do. I mean, we are all ears.
No,
anything we've not already covered.
I think for every question I answered quite elaborately.
Yes.
That's how I am. But yeah, I would just say that please learn self-regulation techniques. I would like to tell this to parents that, whether you are angry, whether you are emotionally shut down, whatever it is, if you have trauma baggage, please learn some techniques that can help you just pause before you react, that can help you to just take that deep breath before you say something to your child out of an impulse or out of a triggered behavior. There are many techniques like EFT, coherent breathing, humming, a lot of techniques we teach in our workshops, which are self-regulation techniques. We are also doing workshops on parenting, which contain self-regulation techniques for parents as well as positive disciplining tips for parents. So please, there is resources available. Please work on it. Please take help, because really parenting can, as parents, there's so much that we can do for our children in a positive way. And I would also say that don't look at parenting from the short term, like, what is my child? Is he learning alphabets today? Has he learned the tables right? Is he passing in the 10th grade, 12th? Look at it from a broader perspective. When your child is 30 and 40, what is the relationship your child wants to have with you? How does your child want to remember you as a parent? Like, as somebody who got the tables right, does it matter in the long run? Like when your child is 40 and 50, did it matter whether he learned the tables at age of 3 or at the age of 5? Or is it going to matter that the child says, oh, my mom is the most loving person and I really love my mother? Or, it's okay, I didn't get things right, but still my mom was always there for me. So really, I would say, look at the big picture. Don't get caught up in these small milestones that you want your child to achieve, because trust me, in the long run, if you look at a lifespan of your child, these small milestones really don't matter as much. Whether your child was potty trained at 2 or at 5, who cares? I mean, I know my daughter was potty trained at 6 months, my first child, and I did so much an effort to do that for her. I'm like, yay. And then with my second one, I didn't have the energy, and I was like, let it be. So he was wearing diapers till he was like 4 years old, and it really doesn't matter now. He's 19 and he's like good young chap. So I'm like, that time it was the biggest thing for me, like potty train. And the whole world would tell me, you're not doing a good job. See, you should have potty trained by now. He's still wearing diapers. He was wearing full-on diapers. And I was like, it doesn't matter. And it really doesn't matter now, Now we laugh about it.
Yeah.
So these are just some of the things I would like to say, that, work on yourself, take it easy, don't be very serious about this, and really, really understand that whatever you say, you do, you express, you don't assume your child doesn't know it. Your child is being affected by every single thought, emotion, belief, behavior of yours. So please work on yourself first before trying to fix your child.
Excellent. Wow. I mean, thank you so much for opening the doors to a completely new perspective for us. So I'm sure many of us are going to look at parenting from a slightly changed and evolved perspective from this session onwards. So thank you so much.
And also one last thing I would like to say, that based on a lot of research that we've been doing in the last so many years, and last 4 years specifically, like thousands of people's data, I would say that today we understand that physical abuse and sexual abuse are really dangerous, but we don't understand emotional abuse and neglect. And what research says is that physical abuse, emotional neglect, and domestic violence are the 4 most deadliest combinations, which have a very, very high risk of suicide behavior, suicide ideation, severe depression amongst adults. Which means, as children, if your child is exposed to physical abuse, domestic violence, or emotional abuse and neglect, the cocktail is so deadly that there are 88% high likelihood of them as adults having suicide thoughts, ideations, or depression and anxiety and mental health issues. So physical abuse, sexual abuse, understand, but emotional abuse, people don't understand. Parents don't know what is emotional abuse, but the scars of emotional abuse run much deeper than physical abuse. And what is emotional abuse? Threatening, isolating, constantly nagging, constantly correcting, constantly criticizing, humiliating the child, putting the child in a corner, time out, right? Saying mama is going to, guilt tripping. Oh, because of you, mama is crying. Oh, because of you, daddy is going to shout at me. Oh, see, look, because of you, we are having a fight. Or if you don't eat, I'm going to cry. If you don't eat, if you do this, I'm going to leave the house and go away. All these are emotional abuse, and they are more toxic than even physically beating up the children. So I would say that read up on abuse, understand if you are unknowingly also becoming abusive, and please work on yourself. Please, if we want to save an entire generation of kids from mental health issues.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes. Thank you so much for taking out your precious time and being with us here today in this session and sharing this important information and perspective on parenting with us. I hope we get an opportunity to have you live on our community once again in the near future. But thank you so much for being here today with us.
Definitely. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Wait, I'm just ending the session. We can stay here.
Yeah.